And it is that time again, guys. We are live streaming here. I am talking Chicago Bulls. I'm talking NBA. A couple other things. The conversation kind of always kind of goes all over the place, which is cool. Which is cool. Which is totally cool. So I am going to give people a chance to come in a little bit. I'm also going to send the link out on Twitter, which is something that I have not done. I like to do that in the first couple minutes of the situation. So that's what I'm about to do here. Hope everybody is having a safe and nice holiday season so far. If you're on the West Coast, it's already Christmas Eve. So Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope everybody, like I said, has a beautiful holidays time period. I'd like to say for anybody who doesn't know, who's already in here, if you please like the video, it'd be awesome. It'd be even cooler if you shared it. That also works. But yeah, it does help me out quite a bit as you can note if you haven't noticed. Working a little bit trying to get this channel, you know, just kind of getting some growth stimulated here. So we streamed last night. So I'm gonna try not to necessarily retread over a bunch of stuff that I talked about last night. Talk about some new stuff tonight or today, if at all possible. So definitely, if you are in the chat, if you have not yet said what's up, definitely go ahead and do that when you can. Uh, Let me see here. Make sure we're live and kicking here. We are. We are good. Gotta pop this out. Pro Dubs, what's going on? Chivo, I appreciate you guys in here. Pop this out. Righty. All right, so I am gonna definitely be talking about what happened with the Bulls today, which was not all that cute at all. It was not cute, not even in the least bit. The Bulls take a definitive 124 to 104 loss to the Atlanta Hawks. So it definitely warrants some conversation. There's still some games going on right now. Phoenix has a 1 point lead over Luca and the Mavs. I believe, let's see what else is still going on. Utah is beating Portland about as bad as the Bulls got beat by the Hawks right now. I think those are the only two games still left happening right now. Everything else is already in the books. Really busy. This was like the first full night of NBA action. One game actually got postponed. We're gonna talk a little bit about that because I thought there's some absolute ridiculous situations going on surrounding that. So we're gonna talk about that as well. But first and foremost, let's talk about the Bulls. 124 to 104 defeat. Well, I run a Facebook page because I cover the Bulls for heavy.com. So I run a Facebook page. It's called Heavy on Bulls. I urge you guys to head over to Facebook and just search Heavy on Bulls. I can put it in the chat. Go there and like that page if you are active at all on Facebook. So you'll basically see all of my Chicago Bulls articles there. And then some of the graphics and things that we post. I'm going to post it in the chat right now. But I give out something called a stud and a dud for every single game. And so I could have actually given out the dud to the entire Chicago Bulls defense tonight because overall the defense was horrendous. I mean, if you play defense like they play defense today, then like the Bulls play defense today, it's just going to be it's going to be a really, really long year. Brisk Clown, I appreciate you coming through. Jaden Zachary, what's going on, my man? Appreciate you. Yeah, that's the Facebook page. So anybody who's here, you can go ahead. Please feel free to like that. But if you play defense the way the Bulls play defense today, it's going to be a really, really bad year. I mean, the Hawks, first and foremost, we should not neglect to mention the Hawks are a vastly improved team. Fantastic shooting, led by a insanely talented young point guard in Trey Young. Had a fantastic night tonight with 37 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists. He had 4 turnovers, but he only missed 2 shots. and he only missed 2 shots. He was 5 for 6 from 3-point range, 10 for 12 from the field overall. Just played a great game, ran pick and roll with John Collins masterfully, and the Bulls essentially showed that they have no idea how to defend the pick and roll still. I'm not going to come down too hard on the Bulls in terms of like just killing the whole season. I took some time just to kind of look a little bit and see what people were saying online, and people were going really hard just with, oh my God, they're horrible. Oh my God, this is it. Oh, they're going to lose every game and all of that. I'm not going to go that hard, right? Because it's one game. It's in the middle of the pandemic, and everything's different. It's going to take a minute. It's going to take a minute. So let me make sure I put this out on on Twitter. It's going to take a minute. It just is, so we can't get too wrapped up in what we saw tonight. There are some things that you cannot ignore that were just bad that were going on with the Bulls tonight. There's some things there's no way to ignore how bad the defense was, and you can't like sweep that under the rug and say, oh well, it'll get better. No, you got to make that particular thing a priority there, because they were so bad tonight. It was, at first it wasn't really an effort thing, right? At first it wasn't really an effort thing. At one point it was just bad technique on defense, and I thought Will Perdue pointed out a really good aspect of what was going on defense, especially with Zach LaVine, when he said, I would never question Zach LaVine's work ethic. I know how hard he works, right? And I've said that. I said that actually last night. But what I do question is how much tape is he watching in terms of his upcoming opponents? Where is his defensive IQ? Because the way him, Kobe White, and just about everybody except for Ryan Arcidiacono were approaching the pick and roll defense with Trae Young, just the way they were all approaching it, I felt was just wrong. I called it out while we were watching the game. They kept following Trae Young so tightly around the screen to try to stay with him, but they were running full speed, and all Trae Young was doing is just a really savvy veteran kind of a move for a point guard who really understands how to run a pick and roll. And as soon as he'd come off the edge of the screener of the screen shoulder, he'd stop and pull up, and he'd run directly. LaVine got 2 quick fouls that way. Kobe White looked completely lost on defense, trying to stay with Trae Young once it switched over to him, because the Bulls started the game with Zach LaVine accepting that responsibility, saying, I'm going to guard their best player. I could tell that was his objective. But he got those 2 quick fouls, and Trae Young was eating his lunch early. So I thought Billy Donovan made the wise decision to make that switch, knowing that he needs Zach LaVine's offense, and he could not afford to allow him to essentially just get taken out of the game, which he kind of did. So if Zach LaVine was going to have one of those days where he was on fire and, just held a stop, and he did have a good game. I'll talk about his stats in a minute. But if he was going to have one of those real games like that, that whole concept was curtailed by him losing flow and losing everything, trying to keep up with Trae Young on the other end of the floor. And that is one thing that Zach's going to have to be able to do. He's going to have to be able to play a more complete game. I do love that the effort is there on defense, and he's accepting challenges on that end. But his poor approach on defense today really kind of threw a lot of things out of whack with his game. I'm not blaming that at all on the result. Zach didn't do. There's nothing that I think that Zach did that necessarily caused this result or directly resulted in this. This was absolutely a team loss on the defensive side of the ball, on the defensive end of the court, and it's not totally on Zach. It's actually not totally or completely on any one player, but there are some people who I felt were worse than others. And one of those guys I thought was Kobe White. So he's the one who I gave my dud to. And I love Kobe White. I do. But defensively, he was poor today. And offensively, he was very poor. He finished with 9 points, 7 assists. And some people might look at that 7 assists and go, oh, well, how are you going to say he didn't play point guard well when he had 7 assists? Well, if you watch the game, you would see how many situations where he mishandled the ball, just didn't get good shots, didn't set his team up for in advantageous situations, dribbled into traffic, dribbled too deep, which was a problem in the preseason. We'll see. We'll see. And I hear a lot of people saying he's a six man and all that, and they may very well be right. I don't have a problem at this point with Billy Donovan giving him an opportunity to show some development before he makes some changes. If you saw what he did with Wendell Carter Jr. today, who almost ended up getting my dud, but I pulled it back towards the end of the game. Wendell Carter Jr. started the first half looking for that 3-point shot, looking for what he would do off of pick and pop as opposed to screen and roll. He wasn't posting up at all, and he was playing horrendously in the first half. Second half came out immediately. The first play out of the locker room was him setting up on the post and playing more of the game that we're used to seeing him play, where he does show some flashes of having something that he can offer. I like the fact that that adjustment was made, and I'm hoping that Billy Donovan makes the same adjustment with Kobe White. I would obviously give him more leash, because here's the thing. Here's the reason why. The Bulls drafted Kobe White to be a point guard. So Jim Boylan did not really give him that opportunity. And as it turns out, the role that Jim Boylan stuck him in might actually be the best role for him. It might be one of maybe the only good or positive or right decisions Jim Boylan made as a Bulls head coach. But I think you do still owe it to Kobe White, and you owe it to the entire team to allow Kobe to prove that he is or isn't a point guard. I don't think you have a long time where you can do that, though. I think I give him about the first 10 games of this season to at least show some improvement from a development standpoint in terms of running an offense. I give him at least that amount of time. Now, I'm already leaning towards what everybody else is pretty much saying, which is that he's a six-man. He's a Lou Williams, Jamal Crawford style player. That's where I'm leaning already. I see people in the chat saying Ben Gordon. We wish that he was. We hope that that's the kind of scorer, explosive scorer he turns out to be. But I still feel like because of the disjointed way that last season ended, because that you drafted him so high as a point guard, you have to at least give him an opportunity to show that he is or isn't that. And so that's why I don't have an issue with them having him in this role right now. But if we get about 10 games into this season and we're not even seeing any flashes of improvement in terms of with him running an offense effectively, I think what that tells you is that for right now, Tomas Satoransky has to start for right now. And Kobe White goes to the bench and becomes a six-man, probably finishes the game in game, especially if he's hot and making plays. He doesn't, he's literally going to be transferred to a Lou Williams style role. I think that's what happens. And then it also tells you, obviously, Tomas Satoransky is not a long-term solution at point guard. But what it now tells you is we know without a shadow of a doubt that we need a point guard. What I could say you couldn't be sure of that yet this offseason. So that's why I never had an issue with drafting Patrick Williams, and he looked really good tonight. I thought we'll talk about him in a second. That's why I never really had a problem with that, because you had to find out what Kobe was. You could have been leaning towards, Kobe's not a starting point guard. You could have been leaning, and I would understand that, but you had to be sure. And so as through one regular season game and 4 preseason games, it looks like he's a six-man. It looks like he's a scoring guy off the bench. And that's totally fine. That if he goes to the bench and you come off the bench with Otto Porter and Kobe White, you have one of the better scoring second units in the NBA. Satoransky needs to knock down open shots. He needs to run the offense. He needs to facilitate for Zach and Laurie. Zach and Laurie then carry an even bigger load on offense. And so now we have to make sure things function properly. And we absolutely need Wendell Carter, offensive rebounding, setting up for some level of a low post presence and rim running off of screen and rolls. And then we're still finding out exactly everything that Pat Williams can do offensively. So that to me is ultimately where this will probably end up, which is not a bad thing because we are still in a discovery kind of an area with this Chicago Bulls team. We are. So that's not a horrible thing. So that's one of the reasons why what happened tonight, I'm not falling over for, and just, I mean, it was a vomit worthy performance for sure. But I'm not dying over it because we are still in the discovery area. I'm going to talk about the Hawks in a second too because they looked really, despite the fact that the Bulls played horrible defense. I mean, just think about it. Atlanta scored 83 points in the first half, guys. 83 points. You are on pace. I mean, for 166 points, man, in a 4-quarter game. When you're talking about a triple overtime battle, I'm talking about a 4-quarter NBA game, and they were on pace for 166 points at the end of the half. So defensively, it was terrible. And I'm not even sure necessarily that the Bulls got much better defensively in the second half, as opposed to, we saw the Hawks guys play less minutes. We saw them play a lot of their bench and that sort of thing. But it was what it was. So my dud, as I said, for the day was Kobe White. 2 for 11 from the field, 1 for 7 from 3, 4 for 4 from free throw line was just fine. He got the 7 assists, 2 rebounds. He had a steal. He was a minus 13, which wasn't there actually even as bad as the person who I gave the stud to, which I think plus minus you have to take it with a grain of salt. It kind of is what it is. But yeah, Kobe White was a minus 13 today. Zach LaVine was minus 26, and Lauri Markkanen had the worst minus of everybody on the floor today, minus 34. I don't think he played great defense. I don't think anybody really played great defense. I thought Pat Williams gave a really good effort on D. I thought Hutchinson gave good effort on D. I thought Archie Diakonou gave good effort on D. I thought Makoka gave good effort on D. He's just so inept offensively that I don't even know how he plays. He's that bad offensively, but he does play better defense than the majority of the Bulls' perimeter players. But yeah, my stud was Lauri Markkanen. 21 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal. Most importantly, 4 of 6 from 3-point range. You could make the argument that maybe he didn't get enough shots because he got to 21 points with just 9 shots from the field. So very efficient from a scoring standpoint. He was, like I said, probably just as bad as everybody else defensively out there today. Wendell really stood out with some missed rotations on defense that just kind of had me, I don't know. I said to somebody today while I was watching the game, I think Wendell Carter's going through an identity crisis. It's like you're looking at him and he wants to add these pieces to his game offensively. But in the process, he's forgetting what foundationally he had. And what that is a average to above average defender, because sometimes he still gets overpowered in the post. I don't understand why. Sometimes he doesn't he misses rotations, but I noticed that more today than I did most of the time last season. But he's, athletic, rim runs pretty well, solid finisher around the basket. I think he proves himself to be a decent mid-range shooter, but now he's ready to extend out the 3-point range. And there's a lot of indecisiveness I saw tonight, just out of sync play, more or less. And I think some of that bled over to the defensive side. So that's got to be cleaned up, got to be cleaned up. As far as the Hawks, man, I'm telling you, so many shooters. Trae Young with 37 points. Like I said, only missed 2 shots from the field. John Collins looked great. While I gave Lauri Markkanen my stud, I would absolutely love if the Bulls wind up at the end of this season throwing a major offer sheet at John Collins and forcing the Hawks to match. I would love it. I think John Collins is fantastic at pick and roll. I mean, his footwork out of the screen and roll is so good. He's a plus athlete. He actually shoots well from 3. His shooting percentage from 3 is better than Lauri's over their careers. And Lauri was the one who came in with the reputation as a shooter. John Collins is a better defender. He had 2 blocks tonight. Just a better athlete overall. I would take John Collins over Lauri, even though I love the way Lauri played today. And I do think Lauri will have a good year, because the Bulls did not offer him an extension, but the Hawks did the same thing to Collins. And I don't know. If you give me an opportunity to make that move and make that swap, it won't be an actual trade, but it could be a swapping of positions. I would take John Collins in a second. I thought Kevin Herter shot the ball well. Or at least was presence off the on the floor from 3 point range, a floor spacer. He was only 2 for 6 from three, but as I said, a floor spacer. Gallinari was giving Wendell Carter fits. Wendell Carter could not stay down on the pump fake, which is so much a part of what Danilo Gallinari does. That show and go, and Wendell just didn't. Wendell just didn't play well, guys. I'm just want to tell you, Wendell just didn't play well. One guy who I thought had a fantastic floor game for the Hawks was Cam Reddish. I am looking forward to him having a really good season. He is turning into one of the better on-ball defenders in the league. Athletic, finishes well. He had 15 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals. But yeah, they played very well. As far as for Pat Williams, 16 points, 4 rebounds, an assist, a steal, a block. Excellent effort. The form on the jump shot still looks good. He's big, he's strong, he's powerful, can finish through contact. I thought he played well. Yeah, he had a minus 23 tonight, but I still thought he played well, all things considered. So I wouldn't panic very much about what you think he's going to do. I'm gonna look a little bit at what you guys were saying in the chat. Sweet Jones says, J City says takes a while to build the culture, and you are correct. It's not going to happen in one night, which is why I don't panic quite yet. Tim A says, if Kobe starts every point guard in the league, we'll have 20 in 3 quarters. I don't understand why people want him to start. Well, they want him to start because you want to because the Bulls drafted this guy as a point guard, and you got to find out for sure if this is what it is. But I agree with you. Kobe's a bad defender. He's a bad defender. And it's very hard for a defender as bad as Kobe to start at point guard for a good team. It's hard because the initiator for most offenses, you are literally your first line of defense essentially is poor against the ignition of almost everybody's offense. So I'm not trying to say everybody needs to be Gary Payton, or Drew Holiday, but you can't. It's very difficult to be a good team and have that poor of a defender at point guard. It just kind of is. Chade says they were never asked to play defense in AAU or college. They never learned the key concepts of defense. Sade, I agree with you on some instances, but you look at guys, you got guys like Pat Williams, you got guys like Isaac Okoro. These guys came up in the same kind of AAU and college circuit. Some guys are wired to defend, some guys just aren't. Some guys are wired to defend, some guys just aren't. It's clear Kobe White is not wired to defend because he did not want any parts of it today. He didn't, and it was apparent. It's coming secondary for Zach. He's trying to defend. He's giving the effort, but mentally, from a defensive IQ standpoint, he was not there today. You've heard the saying is, or people say you're playing hard, but you're hurting the son. Defensively, Zach LaVine was playing hard, but he was hurting the Bulls because he wasn't prepared. He said, hey, I'm going to take Trae Young, but he wasn't prepared. He didn't have a game plan. Or at least it didn't look like he had a game plan. I mean, anybody that plays basketball says, oh, you stay in front of him, you get your hand up when he shoots. Okay, yeah, that's a basic game plan for if you go into LA Fitness. But if you're going to be playing one of the best point guards in the league, it's got to be a little deeper than that, and it didn't appear to be for Zach tonight. J City says, come in and get buckets. It should have kept Dunn. I come in and get buckets. I agree. That might be that might be the right role for Kobe White, which is what I said a little bit earlier. Should have kept Dunn. Does the absence of Dunn make the Bulls instantly a worse defensive team? Yes. Was defense the biggest reason they lost tonight? Yes. But over the long term, do I think that Dunn is the right choice at point guard? No. I don't. I think he's too limited offensively to be the right choice at point guard. I think he can because the Bulls don't have enough proven scorers to have Dunn at point guard. They just don't. You know, Dunn isn't even fantastic at running an offense. Dunn does one thing really, really well, and that is defend. Every other part of Chris Dunn's game is arguably average or below average. And I would lean towards below average. But he is a fantastic defender. So it's easy to look at what happened tonight and say, oh, well, if they'd have kept Dunn, it would have been better. If they'd have kept Dunn, they'd have played better defense on Trae Young. Okay, I definitely agree with that. You know, what's good, King Fredo? Timmy said he's a shooting guard. He's Ben Gordon. Yeah, might be. It might be what it is. Sade says, do you feel the Bulls should have drafted Porter Jr. or Wendell Carter over Wendell Carter Jr.? No, I actually don't. I don't. It's really easy to look at what Michael Porter Jr. is doing right now and say, oh, the Bulls should have drafted Michael Porter Jr. Ah, duh. Michael Porter Jr. had a broke back, a knee injury, and all kinds of stuff coming on as far as physically. When he came out, the Bulls were not the only team that passed on Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. is one of those guys that with that injury history, you pass on him. And then if it turns out where he turns out to be a great player, you go, okay, well, great. I'm happy for him. But you cannot use a draft pick on somebody whose injury history is that way. So I just don't subscribe to that thought. It's easy to evaluate a lot of draft picks in retrospect after you've seen what they're going to become. But you can't ignore what all of those red flags were with Michael Porter Jr. at the time. That is why he slipped into the, what was it, 20 somewhere, 18th or something crazy. Everybody knew from a talent standpoint he was a top 1 or 2 player in that draft. But the best ability is availability. And when you have a strong, serious concern that a player is not going to be available or is going to be unavailable more than they are of it. I mean, just think about it. Michael Porter Jr. spent like the first 2 years of his career not playing. Not playing because of injury. I cannot say that anybody was wrong for not drafting him. Let's see. Scott Harris says you should do a realistic Bulls rebuild in NBA 2K21. Do it like you're the GM and coming in to get the Bulls back where they belong. I've wanted to do that. I've thought about doing that so many times. I've thought about doing it. Maybe this year is a good year to do it. We'll see. But Zach LaVine is like a monster in 2K. It's just like crazy good. There ain't really nothing he can't do in 2K. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Angelo Celadonio says Okoro. Yeah, Okoro is looking nice. John Collins is definitely slept on. Cam Reddish is the new Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson was never a good defender like that. Cam Reddish defends. They're two completely different kinds of players. Joe Johnson was an isolation style player. That's not really what Cam Reddish is. Cam Reddish is, as far as being a good wing player for the Hawks, who's an African American, I can say that they are similar in that way. But I think from a style of game standpoint, I don't think they're all that similar at all, honestly, from a game style standpoint. Yeah, Michael Porter Jr. went 14th, actually. So let's see what we got else. What else do we have here? It says Joe decided you watch every episode of that rebuild. Bulls ain't going nowhere. Straight garbage. Hey, Aladdin has, like I said, it's one game. They look like big trash today. It's one game though. So one game coming out of the pandemic off season. The Warriors look like trash last night. I think we're going to see that early on from a few different teams. I think it's going to take about a month to find out what teams are. It usually takes around about a little bit of time anyway before you really see what teams are. But I think it's going to take about a month this season for sure, with a lot of people literally using the first 3 to 4 weeks of the season as what they would have gotten from training camp and what they would have gotten from preseason. I think that's what we're going to see early. And this season is going to be different because it's going to be, can you stay afloat and not die too much during that whole like incubation orientation type period of your season? And then once you kind of become who you are, if that's even good or not, then you kind of try to make it all right from there. So we still don't know if he'll hold up on big minutes over a deep playoff run. MPJ had to go to a team with the luxury of risking a first round pick. Exactly. That's my point. He had to go to a place where if they missed on him, it wouldn't kill them. The Bulls were not in that position where they could afford to miss on Michael Porter Jr. They just weren't. To be honest, you could make it's debatable on whether or not they missed on Wendell Carter Jr. It's debatable. We'll see. It didn't look good tonight, and it didn't look good in the preseason. So we'll see. I do think he has some trade value. I know that the Warriors liked him, but we'll see. Stacks up. Steve-O says you can say that, but Wendell though, I never got him, and he's definitely he doesn't really fit the NBA's game. He doesn't fit the NBA's game. I don't know why you say that. Yeah, I know you like this hat, Peasy. I know you do, but doesn't fit the game. I mean, I'm not gonna go that far. I mean, he's 6'11", decently strong, even though he definitely has to get stronger. Athletic guy who plays hard, defends. When he's at his best, he's a pretty good rim protector. Finishes decently enough around the basket, and he's a pretty good mid-range shooter. All of that, and he's only 21 years old, man. He's only 21. So to go as far as to say he doesn't fit the NBA's game, I think that's very premature to say something like that. And it's not like he's been out here and he's had no success. Doesn't fit the NBA game? Come on. How can a guy average 11 points and 9.5 rebounds a game, and 9.5 rebounds last year, and we say that he doesn't fit the game? Now, he's not a star, okay. I can understand that. I mean, if you look at him, rookie season, he averaged 10.7 rebounds and a block shot a game. Okay, that's a rookie season. Got hurt a lot. Now, that's a problem for him. Staying healthy is definitely a problem. But then his second year, he goes up literally in pretty much just about every category. 11.3 points a game, 9.4 rebounds, a little less than a block shot the next season. So, yeah, no, I think that's a lot. I think it's a lot to say that. I memean, every big man does not have to be an excellent 3-point shooter. They don't have to be that. Every big man doesn't have to be that. You got guys who are really helping teams who are not that's not a major part of their game, So, I don't know. I think that's a little bit extra beat down on Wendell on a bad night. Bull should have never got rid of Jimmy Buckets. Well, I really don't agree with that. As good as Jimmy is now, and as good as I think he's even better now than he was when he was with the Bulls. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I would like to say I believe that Jimmy would not have taken some of the steps that he's taken as a leader without some of the things that happened in Chicago, without some of the things that happened in Minnesota, without the things that happened in Philly. Jimmy found the right organization at the right time for him as a person and as a basketball player in Miami. And while he still has some of the edge and all of the stuff that made him kind of what he is, I think that I don't know that ever would have happened in Chicago. I don't know that he ever would have had the type of leadership, the type of accountability, all of the stuff that he has gotten in Miami and has come across through the other, what are we talking about? 3 teams that he's played with since. So sometimes in order to see the best of a player, they have to get out of a certain situation. And I don't think the Bulls are a good organization. They're not. At least not yet. Hopefully they're on the road to getting there, but I don't think that they are. But I think if the Bulls kept Jimmy Butler, I think we would have not seen him. I mean, he was good with the Bulls already, but I don't know that we see him turn the corner and become the guy that he is now. Madden Gamer, they can't fire the owner. He said they need to fire Reinsdorf. He owns the team. You can't fire the dude that owns it. That's the thing about it. He owns the team. You can't fire him. Let's see. Clay is out for the season. Yes, he is. Wendell just needs to get his mental back. I do think mentally something is definitely off there. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but he does need that. And Nelson has a really good point. He said he needs a real point guard. I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. I think that playing with a real point guard, you would see a completely different Wendell Carter Jr. if he was playing with Trae Young. You'd see a completely different dude. You'd see a completely different dude if he was playing with Chris Paul. You'd see a different guy. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. If he was playing with Kemba Walker, you'd see a different guy. So I think that does matter for sure. But his ceiling is what? Al Horford with a Al and Laurie work. That's basically what you got here. If he was playing like Al Horford, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, because Al Horford is a very capable three-point shooter, a fantastic low post defender, a good finisher around the basket, and most of all, he plays with a very high basketball IQ. If the Bulls had Al Horford and Lauri Markkanen, and Lauri Markkanen was playing up to his capability and his potential, we wouldn't even have a issue at all in the front court, because you'd have a all-star level power forward. Now, of course, Al Horford's older now, but we're talking about Al Horford in his prime. Al Horford in his prime is nothing to sneeze at. That's a very capable power forward center in any league, especially when you consider the fact of what he did when he's expanded his game out. I think our hopes and our prayers is that Wendell Carter becomes Al Horford, which is what the most common comparison for him has been. Right now, early in this season, one game in, and through the preseason, I think you can make the you could say that he seems to have regressed. So I'm hoping that he gets back to being on that upward trek, and then also think that he needs to stay healthy. Madden Gamer, the only thing that reminds me of Lauri Markkanen and Dirk is that they're both 7 foot and white. That is it. I wish that he reminded me of Dirk, because if he reminded me of Dirk, we again would not be having this conversation, because Lauri plays well. Now, early on in Dirk's career, he struggled with a little bit of this, but he got it quicker. Lauri's a better athlete than Dirk. He is, but Dirk I can't even believe I'm even having this comparison kind of a conversation. But Dirk's skill level, so say you took George Murasan, right? If that's Dirk Nowitzki's skill level compared to Lauri Markkanen's, stand him next to Keith Bogans. And Keith Bogans would be representative of Lauri Markkanen's skill level compared to Dirk Nowitzki. And I'm not saying that to say Lauri Markkanen has no chance to be a great player, but when we're talking about Dirk Nowitzki, we're talking about one of the maybe 15, 20 greatest players that ever lived. He doesn't remind me of Dirk. He just not even. I don't know. I don't know that. The thing about it is Dirk had obtained like a nasty streak at some point, and he obtained a comfort level in his game. It was like, I know who I am, I know what I am, and if I operate in my space, there ain't nothing you can do about it. I don't know if we'll ever see Lauri Markkanen get to that point. Just from a mental standpoint, from a mental makeup standpoint, I just don't know. I just don't know if that'll ever happen. So I hope it does, but we'll see. Jay Random said the whole team need mental help. PW look good. I love the mid-range shot. Yep, I loved it too. Yeah. Jimmy was not a good leader in Chicago, man. I hear people say all of this stuff, man, I hear people say that stuff all the time, man. And I, you know, Jimmy Butler was a fantastic player in for the Bulls. He was really good player, really good player. But Jimmy Butler did not carry himself like I am a positive presence on this team. He did not. He didn't. And I don't care what anybody. I'm telling you, he did not. He got into it with teammates. It was bad, man. It got to the point where it was bad. So what he is now is obviously one of the best players in the league, clearly. And maybe Jimmy seems like the type of person that to get the best out of Jimmy, Jimmy has to be in the right kind of an environment. When Jimmy's in a bad environment, you're gonna get bad Jimmy. And the Bulls were not a good environment, so we got bad Jimmy. And when I say bad Jimmy, I don't mean bad playing Jimmy. I mean bad behaving Jimmy. I mean no leadership type Jimmy. I mean try to piss people off on purpose kind of a Jimmy. That's the Jimmy that we got, especially towards the end. So all of this stuff that people are saying they should have kept Buck Jimmy, I wasn't. What? Yeah, man, I don't know. I was here, and it was he was acting a fool, is what he was doing. So, okay. Um, I see Cat's recent comments. I saw something that he was talking about he lost 7 family members to COVID, including his mother. And man, that really, just really is it's a shame and it hurts for sure. I hurt for him. I've mentioned before I had the opportunity to meet him. Is really nice, really cool. It was really good to myself and my sons. And so even if I had never met him, even if I didn't actually like Cat, it would still just be a horrible thing to hear. So yeah, I have prayed for him before already, and continue to wish him the best. Let's see. Wendell has no skills. Marketing is too soft. I don't know about Wendell having no skills, but marketing too soft. He played better tonight, but in general, I don't think that's a bad take on marketing. He does play too soft. Laurie doesn't have the mid range game on the same planet. No, he does not. You are so correct of that. Not of Dirk. It ain't even in the building. I mean, it ain't even on the block with what Dirk's head game was in the mid range. And not, I mean, I don't think, I don't know if y'all realize how good of a player Dirk was from 20 feet and in. Like, man, it was like you ain't. I don't care what you do. You gonna get this bucket probably. I don't see nothing about Laurie that ever makes me feel like that's what it'll be. Like a good player, yes, that could happen. But Dirk, no, no. Do you think Al Horford and Laurie plus Zach and Kobe would work? If it's Al Horford, if it's truly Al Horford and it's Laurie marketing Zach and Kobe, if Kobe White is actually a point guard and there's some major development that's going to take place and that can be what he rounds into, then maybe yes. I don't think that's going to happen. Like I said, I think you give him a little bit more time before you pull the plug on him as a point guard and just make him a 6 man. I don't think it's going to happen, but I give him a few more weeks before I do that. But if that was the case, then yeah, that'd be fine. But because I don't think that's going to be the case, Al Horford, Laurie Markin, and Zach LaVine, and a real point guard, and I don't mean Tomas Satoransky, that would work. That would be great. That'd be really nice. Even though I still think defensively we'd still be lacking, unless that point guard was a lockdown defender as well as a facilitator who could knock down an open shot as well. We'd still be hurting because you still only have 2 good defenders of the 4. And I don't know if you can get away with having 4 bad defenders on a good team. I mean, 2 bad defenders in the starting lineup on a good team. Like bad defenders. And I put it like, I don't think Zach's going to be a bad defender all year. I think he'll learn about approaching things a little bit differently from a mental standpoint on defense. I also don't think he should have to hide Kobe White on defense by taking Trae Young. Kobe White should be on Trae Young, and he should do a better job than what he did, and everybody knows he will do. That's not the case. That's another reason why I don't think ultimately he'll be a point guard. I honestly I worry more about him on the defensive side of the ball than I do on offense with being a point guard because I think he's as bad as he has looked as a facilitator. I think he's even further away as a defender of the point guard position. So yeah. Um. Let's see. Let's see. I don't know. A better fit than I'm not against trading Wendell. I'm not. I'm not. I don't. I'm not a huge like Wendell Carter fan, but I do kind of call foul on like some statements that people make when they go kind of. I feel like go too far to the extreme, like he has no skills or he's not this or he's not that. Yeah, can't get too crazy. Can't get too crazy. Dirk is a killer, elite scoring power forward of all time. Not fair to Laurie to bring him up. I'd agree. I'd agree. Stacks up Steve O'Talls. Minnesota and Philly was necessary for Jimmy for sure. I 100% agree with that. I think that was necessary for Jimmy to become what he has become. Golden Stack says, I'll give you Cam and my current top pick and next year's second round pick for Levine. Cam Reddish and your current top pick and next year's second round pick for Levine. Yeah, I don't know. That's not enough. That's not enough. That's not enough. Your current top pick? Are you talking about Okongwu? If you're talking about Okongwu, you say Cam Reddish, Okongwu, and next year's second round pick for Zach LaVine. No, that's not enough. That's not enough for a proven 25-point per game score. 25 points, 38% from 3-point range, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal. That's just not enough. That's not enough proven anything in there. Cam Reddish is a nice player, and I like him. But that's not you're taking a team's best player away. Even though it's not a good team, but you're taking a team's best player, number one scoring option, and you're not giving them anything like that back. And now you're saying, oh, the Bulls are now saying until Okongwu's never going to be that kind of a scorer. That's just not what he's going to be. So now you got to say a second round pick and Cam Reddish have to take up the scoring slack for LaVine because it next then falls down to Lauri Markkanen, and that would be a bad trade from the Bulls standpoint. Bad trade. Let's see. Where is Carson Wentz next year? Is not going to be in Philly because I don't think he's going to be a starter. I think they're going to go with Jalen Hurts. I think there's a few teams. I think he might get a rude awakening because he might realize that he's not going to be able to walk into any place and be the starter from day one. I mean, if you just kind of look at what's happening in the NFL right now, and we are shifting gears a little bit here, guys. If you look at what's happening in the NFL, and you look at teams who might be in a position to need a quarterback next year. And I'm telling you, man, I don't know if I'm not sure that there's a place for Carson Wentz where it's just like, hey, you walk in and you're the starter. I'm not sure that that's the case. I mean, Buffalo's got their guy. The Dolphins has got their guy. The Patriots are an option. That's an option because, everybody's so down on Cam Newton. I don't think that Cam Newton has got a fair shake at all from the media, from fans, especially not Patriots fans. Many of them, the more vocal Patriots fans, appear to me to be motivated by something beyond football. So I don't know what all goes on there. And I cover the Patriots, so I'm telling you this from firsthand knowledge. There's a lot of really questionable comments that come out of the Patriots fan base that makes you a little bit nervous. But, has Cam Newton looked like 2015 Cam Newton? No. But I also don't believe that he has had the type of play calling that will allow him to truly play the play the quarterback position. You're looking at very limited passing attempts. Most of the stuff are these really short dump off passes, which have traditionally been the worst passes for him to throw throughout his career. He's been one of the most accurate deep ball throwing quarterbacks in the NFL since for the last 7 to 8 years. The statistics actually back this up. Even this year, he has the highest the seventh highest rating in terms of passes over 20 yards or more. The problem is he doesn't get those opportunities. They throw dump offs and they lean so heavily on the run game because for whatever reason they don't believe he's able. But he has had instances this year where he has shown that he's able to throw these deep balls. He hit Julian Edelman on a 49-yard reception against in week 2 against the Seattle Seahawks. Beautiful over the shoulder catch by Edelman. He had to dive for it because he had such tight coverage from Jamal Adams, and the ball was placed perfectly. Huge play. Cam threw for 395 yards in that game. He had a humongous touchdown pass to Demir Bird in a loss to the Houston Texans. The ball was right on the money. He's hit Jacoby Myers on some deep routes into the 20 to 25, 30-yard range this year. When he's thrown those passes, he's done well. Where he struggled is on the shorter stuff. But I think part of that struggle is, yes, he does have some accuracy issues. But the other side of that struggle is that defenses are literally daring the Patriots to throw the ball deep because they do it so infrequently. So now he is throwing balls into shorter, smaller windows, and there's tons of defenders around. So while the completions might be there, there's nowhere really for the player for the receivers or tight ends. I mean, tight ends barely catch a ball in Patriots offense now without based because of the players that they have. And it's the running backs mostly and wide receivers on shallow crosses and slants. And there's really nowhere to go because the defense is all in the box area because they're all stacked up to stop New England's running game. So I'm not saying that Cam Newton's going to come out here and look like Patrick Mahomes if you blow this offense out. But what I'm saying is there's judgment being passed on him without having an actual offense run that does what he does well besides running the ball. So that's just my spiel with the Patriots. The Jets are in a situation where they're either going to bring Sam Darnold back and give him another chance, or they're going to probably draft Justin Fields with the number 2 pick if they don't get the number 1 pick. If they get the number 1 pick, we all know it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. So Wentz is not going there. The Steelers could be interesting because they may give up on Roethlisberger because he hasn't looked great this year. He's 37, 38 years old. They do have some talented wideouts, even though Juju Smith-Schuster is a free agent at the end of this season. They do have some talented wideouts, but most importantly, they have a dominant defense and a good running game. That's the kind of makeup that you like to give or put Carson Wentz in. So will he go from one portion of Pennsylvania to the next? That's something interesting to take a look at to see how they would handle that. But I don't know. We'll see. I got to look up what Roethlisberger's contract situation is because obviously that's a big deal. Cleveland, no way. Baker Mayfield. Baltimore, no way. Lamar. Cincinnati, no way. Joe Burrow, even though he's out for the season. Tennessee, no way. Ryan Tannehill. Indianapolis, maybe, because he obviously has the connection there with Frank Reich. That might be the best landing spot for Carson Wentz because he has the connection with Frank Reich, and Phillip Rivers is older and could easily move on. So that's one. And Indianapolis has a really good defense and 2 really nice running backs on their team as well. They are aging a little bit as a wide receiver, but they have a really nice young tight end in Mo Alley Cox, who is a force out there. So that's a spot maybe for Wentz. Texans, no way. Deshaun Watson. The Jaguars, it's possible. It's not really possible because they're going to be in the top 2 picks. So they're going to either have Lawrence or Fields. I don't see any way they would go with Wentz as opposed to that. I mean, with that, the only way I can see him landing in Jacksonville, and I guess this goes for the same thing with the Jets, is if they want to sign him as a veteran bridge kind of a quarterback to the next guy. But neither one of those places are places I say where he can walk in and potentially start. The Chiefs, we don't even need to talk about it. The Raiders, no, because I think they look at Mariota before they, if they didn't want to go with Derek Carr, if they want to go with Derek Carr, I think they look at Mariota first. The Broncos are interesting. I don't know how they feel about Drew Lock. He's had some dreary days and he's had some hills to climb. But I don't know if they're at that point where they give up on him. Chargers, absolutely not. Justin Herbert. Washington's interesting. It's definitely who knows what's going on. Dwayne Haskins is in strip clubs with no mask on. And Alex Smith is older and obviously has dealt with so many injuries. So that's an option. But I think Cam is an option in Washington because of the connection to Ron Rivera. So we'll see what that happens. The Dallas Cowboys, probably not. I do think they try to bring Dak Prescott back. But if not, it does get interesting there. If they don't want to give Dak the money, it gets interesting there. The Giants, I think they love Daniel Jones. The Eagles definitely, obviously, that's where he is. Jalen Hurts is the guy. Aaron Rodgers is in Green Bay. The Bears are interesting. My squad is interesting. I talked about this yesterday, how I thought that Trubisky is literally not just playing for his own potential future in Chicago right now. I think he's playing for Ryan Pace's future. I think he's playing for Matt Nagy's future. I believe that if Trubisky plays really well and leads the Bears to a 9-7, which would mean winning the last two games, or an 8-8 finish with them beating Jacksonville on Sunday and then losing to the Packers in the finale, but playing well along the way, I think that could lead to all three of them coming back. But if they lose both of those games and he doesn't play well, I think it's clear you have to just change it all. I think it's clear you have to change it all. Now, me personally, I'm not as down on Ryan Pace as most people are. Yes, he missed on the biggest move that he made, which is trading up to get Trubisky. Yes, he missed. But he has hit on quite a few things as well. I don't think he missed on Nagy. I think Nagy's a good head coach, but I think that missing on Trubisky, and I shouldn't even say missing on Trubisky, but Trubisky's inconsistency and late or stagnation in development is what has all three of them in trouble. I think that Matt Nagy has a hand in Trubisky's late or stagnated development. I think mostly he's a good play caller, but I think he's a bad play caller for this particular guy. And I think that's why now that you see Bill Lazor calling the plays, I think you're seeing the best Trubisky that we've seen for maybe since the second year in the league. So it's interesting. So the last two games are going to be really interesting to watch for Trubisky, and that could have some level of impact on whether or not Carson Wentz could be a fit there. The Vikings, I think they like Kirk Cousins. I don't. I think that they would be better off going another direction. He probably wouldn't be Carson Wentz. But if I'm the Vikings, I think seriously about whether or not I want to get really aggressive and trade up to get one of those top quarterbacks in this draft. You got one of the best young wide receivers in the NFL in Justin Jefferson. You do have an aging Adam Thielen, and you have some nice young tight ends behind Kyle Rudolph. I really liked what I saw from Conklin on Sunday. Solid offensive line and one of the best running backs in the league. You need to get a quarterback in there that you are sure about, and I don't think anybody can say they're sure about Kirk Cousins. So that's that. The Lions, I definitely think it's time for Stafford to move on. Would Wentz be a good bridge quarterback there? Maybe. But the Lions are going to have to find a way to trade Stafford, which might not be that hard. I still think Stafford can play. I think both Stafford and the Lions need to go their separate ways, and I think both of them could be fine somewhere else. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. The Saints, I don't know. Do people really believe Taysom Hill is a long-term quarterback? I don't know. Maybe he is. Clearly, they got to do something post Breeze. I think they pretty much told you how they felt about Jameis Winston. Breeze goes down, and time that you think Jameis Winston gets his opportunity, you're like, nah, bro, let's give us Taysom. All year long, we're thinking that Jameis Winston is the number 2 quarterback, and there that goes. So the Saints are going to be interesting to see what they do, if this is time for the break with Breeze, or I don't know. Tampa Bay, I don't think everybody knows, Tom's going to be there next year. He won't be there that long, but he's going to be there next year. The Falcons are interesting because they could part ways with Matt Ryan. And if they do that, they're 4-10. So the Falcons could easily be in they may not be able to get Justin Fields or and won't be able to get Trevor Lawrence, but Trey Lance, Zach Wilson from BYU, all of those guys might be in play for Atlanta at 4-10. So we'll see. Even Carolina might be looking that way because I mean, I don't think Teddy Bridgewater's been fantastic this year. I don't. Yes, it hurts that McCaffrey's been out most of the season, but I think they thought they'd get more from Bridgewater than they've gotten. So that hasn't worked out. Seattle, we already know what that's going to be. That's Russell Wilson. The Rams, Jared Goff. I'm going to tell you something. Aaron Donald and that defense saved Jared Goff from getting more criticism than he gets, because Jared Goff is shaky. Okay, he's shaky. So, but I mean, I don't know if I dump Jared Goff for Carson Wentz. It's that I can't do that. Arizona, we know what that's going to be. It's Kyler Murray. And then 49ers are interesting. I think there's a chance Jimmy Garoppolo could end up back with the Patriots. I wouldn't say that was totally impossible. He's been hurt a lot, but then that means that the 49ers obviously are looking for a quarterback. They're 5-9 right now. It would behoove them to go 5-11. It really would. But we'll see what happens. Because, at this point, I don't know why they're winning. So that's a pretty in-depth question of where is Carson Wentz going to be. So yeah, Jerry Quervey does not like Wendell Carter. I just want y'all to know in case you didn't know. Let's see what else did we get here, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Pats fans gave Brady a pass, saying he has no one to throw to, but blame Cam, who's playing with even less than Brady. Yes, that happens a lot. It happens a lot. Cam doesn't get no breaks. He don't get any breaks. They don't like his hat. They don't like his hair. They don't like his clothes, and they don't like him. And because of those things, he doesn't get a break. He doesn't get anything. And it's in New England, and things are some type of way there sometimes, or in some parts. And he gets no breaks, man. It's just that simple. He gets no breaks. It's actually kind of frustrating, covering them, and you hear all these people with these narratives and he's just trash. He's just bad. He's just bad quarterback play and this, that, and the third. And most of the people who are saying that don't even know how to analyze the game. They haven't watched any all 22 film. And I'm gonna be honest with you. If anybody's giving you in-depth football analysis and they're not watching all 22, you don't even really need to hear what they're saying, because they don't see anything different than what you see. All 22 tells you what did the quarterback see, what should he have seen, because you can't watch it from TV broadcast camera and think that it's like playing Madden from TV broadcast camera. It looks great, but you can't see down the field. So you don't know if somebody was open or not. You don't know whatever was. You don't know. All 22, which is what we play Madden from, is what shows you the entire field. And then that's what shows you what a person should have seen when somebody got open. You see when somebody, if there was a miscommunication, maybe you see those things. So all these people with all this full analysis that don't bother to subscribe or don't have a link at all or any sort of connection at all to the NFL Game Pass that lets you watch all 22, I really don't take that analysis too seriously, because you're not getting the full picture. So it just is what it is. Lord Bigger says we would use him in Washington, but his contract is horrible. He's not worth all that money. Yeah, and you can get out of Carson Wentz's contract in 2022. So in 2022, you can get out of it. There's an out. But for next year, you got to eat. You got to take it. What team is the Chiefs beating in the Super Bowl? My pick for the Super Bowl, right? I'm telling you, I have the Packers winning the Super Bowl. I have the Packers probably beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So that is my prediction. I think offensively, they are layered with the running game and obviously with the passing game, even though a lot of people say that they need another wide receiver to complement Devontae Adams. But I like the offense, but mostly their defense, I think, has the tools to slow. Nobody's going to stop the Chiefs, right? You're not going to stop them. But what you have to do, you have to be able to somewhat control the ball because you got to keep Patrick Mahomes all off the field. You want to keep him on the sidelines as much as possible. So you need to be able to create some sort of a ball control style offense, and you have to convert offensively. So you have to have an effective offense. But you also need the type of pass rushers on your front within the front four who can get pressure without blitzing. And the Packers, I believe, have that. And the other thing that they need, you need capable capable coverage linebackers in the middle of the field. I think they have that. And the other thing that you need is you need an elite level corner, one elite level corner who you can assign to Tyreek Hill. Now, he's going to need help because there's nobody that's going to take Tyreek Hill by himself. That's not going to happen. Once he goes deep, you got to have that over the top safety help. And even on running slants and things like that, and even on running shallow crosses and over the middle stuff, you still need help because once he gets into 2 to 3 or 4 steps, that's when the speed advantage starts to come in. And not to mention he's an improved route runner. So you're going to need help. But the less help you need, the better. And Jair Alexander is the type of corner, I think, who can provide that. So all of this, of course, is without, injuries and all of that sort of thing. But I believe that the Packers have what it takes to beat the Chiefs, and that's my pick. That's coming from a Bears fan, so I'm being unbiased if I say that. Let's see. 49ers. New Orleans probably does need a quarterback. Timothy Kirsten says, how you doing? Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. Stacks up. Steve-O says Ryan Pace been 5 or 6 years and only 1 playoff appearance. Gotta go. I mean, it's a way to look at it for sure. It's a way to look at it. Irv Smith, that guy says Zach Williams from BYU to the Bears. Zach Wilson. I don't know how Zach Wilson comes to the Bears with where we are right now. Bears are 7-7 and trying to get in the playoffs. I don't think that Zach Wilson is going to last out of the top 7. He might not last out of the top 2. Right now, Justin Fields is the number 2 quarterback. Right now. Combine hasn't happened. Interviews haven't happened. Zach Wilson is having one of those meteoric-like rises up draft boards. And I'm telling you, after all of these talent out evaluators get to sit down and look at Zach Wilson and start comparing quarterbacks, I believe Zach Wilson is going to be the 2nd quarterback taken in the draft. By the time April rolls around, I think Trevor's going to be number 1, Zach's going to be number 2, and Justin Fields will be number 3. And then Trey Lance will be number 4 if Mac Brown doesn't surpass him. And I think Kyle Trask will be later in the first round. But I think we're looking at 5 or 6 quarterbacks going in the first round. But my prediction is that Zach Wilson ends up being the number 2 pick, a number 2 pick probably overall, but definitely the 2nd quarterback taken. And if that happens, he won't be there for the Bears. And I don't think the Bears will trade up again for a quarterback. I just don't think they can do that. Feels good to be an Eagles fan. Go Hurts. What do you think of Lamar Jackson? I love Lamar. He's a gamer. He's a baller. He's trying to get better in some of the areas where he is lacking. And I do think that he hasn't hit his ceiling yet. And he's already obviously an NFL MVP, and he hasn't hit his ceiling yet. So we'll see what happens with that. But I love Lamar. At least Cam ain't Steve Grogan and Tony Eason. No, he's not. Different style, different era of Patriots quarterback play. Steve Grogan and Tony Eason are the 2 Patriots quarterbacks that the Bears beat up in the '85 in the Super Bowl when we won 46-10. It was in 1986, but it was the '85 Bears team. Aladdin doesn't vibe with my Packers pick. That's my pick for the Super Bowl. I got Packers over Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I might as well even throw a score out there for you. So I got the Packers beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, 29-21. 29-21. I got Packers winning the Super Bowl. Madden Gamer says, Mary Bulls, Miss Mazique. I appreciate that. I thank you all for watching. I'm going to cut it off here. I still got some other work to do, but I did want to pop in and do a little bit of a stream. I'm going to try to come back tomorrow, talk a little bit about whatever goes on tomorrow in terms of the NBA. We got on Christmas Eve, no games are on Christmas Eve. So I don't know. Maybe we won't. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we won't stream tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't imagine there's going to be any business that goes on. So you know what? We might not actually stream on Christmas Eve. Might stream on Christmas after the Christmas Day games because you got Pelicans Heat, you got Warriors Bucks, you got Nets Celtics, and then you got the Mavericks and the Lakers, which is a really interesting game. Even though the Mavericks just so both of those teams lost their first game because the Mavericks lost tonight to Dallas 106 to 102. Let's see, and Luka had a great game though. Well, he didn't shoot that great. He was 0 for 6 from three. He had 32 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists. He was only 11 to 26 from the field. Didn't shoot well. They didn't shoot well from 3-point range overall. 9 to 37, 24%. That ain't gonna get it. And the Suns play really well. Booker with 22 points. Michael Bridges 18 and 7. DeAndre Ayton only played 24 minutes. He was in foul trouble, but he had 13 and 8. Chris Paul played 28 minutes. He had 8 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals. Cameron Payne, I don't know what's going on. He played good again. He had 11 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. It's amazing to me. But Aladdin puts in his bid 38-17 Chiefs. I got you. We'll see what happens. But I appreciate everybody watching for sure. As usual, God bless.